Good morning, Big Square, road2root.com with your morning horn of Z's, your sip of coffee from Ted Drew's frozen custard place that Bitcoin Ben took me to. I think that's what blew my diet. We do have another cleanse coming up, a short one. Amy and I haven't figured out dates yet. I mean, Amy, I don't do anything. I just go on the cleanse because it feels good afterwards. So I will let you know. It's going to be in the middle of October. It will end the week before the Litecoin party event. There are still tickets available for both the Litecoin Summit, which is going to be unbelievable, and the Road to Ruta event the day before, October 27th. If you want tickets to the party/event for Road to Ruta, send me an email, bix@road2ruta.com. I'll send you the information. It does cost one Litecoin, which is cheap these days. So there you have it. And the Litecoin Summit still has tickets for two, so you can make it a 3-day event. All right. One thing I wanted to say today. I was just finished writing a song for my friends Benny and Sonia. And many of you know if you went to the Spokane Freedom Road Trip, Benny is the amazing poet and Sonia is the amazing singer that I had come up. They're getting married. Bravo to them. Bravo to, they walk around with light and love, and that's what we need these days. And they're red-pilled. They absolutely have gone down that deep, dark road, and it's so easy to get sucked down and to lose your optimism and just be depressed and say, oh, there's no way out. These bad bankers will always control us, and they're going to kill us, and they're going to decrease the population. It's easy to get depressed and sad because it's all true. That's what they are trying to do. They are trying to do. It doesn't mean you have to go down that path. And Benny and Sonia embrace love in a time of turmoil. And they walk around and they talk about it and they sing about it and they are a really cool couple. So I wrote them a song. It's turned out really good. I like it. But it got me thinking. I remember when I first discovered the criminality behind the banking system and all that stuff back in the late 90s, and I fought with the Gold Antitrust Action Committee to free gold and silver for years. Then I discovered the Federal Reserve documents. I'm like, oh my God, the Fed is actually on our side trying to destroy the evil bankers along with us, certain people within the Fed. And that's the overall plan, is to destroy the old system and go to something new, something sound, something better. It was gold back in the day, and we were going to go on to a gold standard with physical gold used as money, and we still might, along with other things. Gold is great, except nobody knows how much there is. Jeffrey Christian will tell you 180 or 200,000 tons of gold has ever been mined on planet Earth. He's a liar. The number's more like 2 million tons, but doesn't mean the price of gold will go down when that's discovered. It's exactly the opposite. When that information is released in relation to the US dollar, the gold will go skyrocketing. It's the dollar that's dying. And it's all part of the plan. So, yes, gold is a good investment, but silver is better. I mean, if you're going to invest in gold, you might as well invest in silver because it's massively more undervalued than gold. And they're going to go up for the same reasons, but silver also has the industrial side. So, yeah, it'll go to 4-to-1 at some point, probably even cross 1-to-1. 1 ounce of silver equals 1 ounce of gold in the price. But that's after manipulation. And manipulation, as we know, is 100% on. On and running at the CFTC, the COMEX and the LBMA, which are the only two silver price-setting mechanisms on planet Earth, and they're both controlled by the criminal banksters, JPMorgan being the number one crime syndicate boss, and I'm going to get to that in 1 second. First, let's talk about the Fed is out of excuses. Okay? With the repos, they said, oh, it's just the tax thing for September. Its corporate taxes are due September 15th. That's why we have to give the banks repo money. That came and went, and all of a sudden, no, it's the end of the year. The end of the year, that's why they need the repo money. Well, the end of the year is over. It ended yesterday on Monday. And today, the banks needed another $55 billion in repo, not to mention the $139 billion that is still revolving. Yes, it is absolutely insane behind the scenes, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. And what's the next excuse going to be? How about the excuse the banks are insolvent? There's an excuse. The Fed will never say that because it's their job not to say that. It's their job to hide that from you. But New York Fed starts new quarter with unexpectedly high $55 billion repo operation. Many expected the funding shortage sweeping across the U.S. financial community to be mostly a function of a one-time mid-September items coupled with traditional quarter-end liquidity. It explained why, in addition to 3 term repos on the last day of the quarter, the Fed conducted an overnight repo which saw surprisingly high $63.5 billion uptake on Monday. Well, now that it's a new quarter, and contrary to clearly erroneous conventional wisdom, the funding shortage still persists. Moments ago, the New York Fed reported in the first overnight repo operation of the quarter, one which saw the maximum allotted size shrink from $100 billion to $75 billion, dealers submitted a surprisingly high $54.85 billion in collateral, all of which was accepted by the Fed. Specifically, dealers tendered $50 billion in treasuries, $4.75 billion in MBSs, as mortgage-backed securities, as well as $100 million in agencies to boost their liquidity. So, here's where we are. Again, on road to Ruta, we know this is what happened in 2008. Now, 2008 was quicker. It all happened in a moment. $550 billion ran out of the banks on September 11th in 2008 at 11 o'clock in the morning, according to Senator Kanjorski. Within an hour, $550 billion ran out, and the Fed had to open their window. This is a more controlled destruction of the banks. It's going a little slower. So on September 11, 2008, the bailout was requested from Congress. Was 4 weeks later. So it was early October, which we're getting into. I think because they're dragging this out a little longer, it'll be a little later that they come to Congress and say, we need $20 billion and we need it now. So expect the slow, I mean, since when is $55 billion slow? But the slow increase in repo operations. And then we get to the 10th, which is the end of the 14-day repo, and they're going to have to do something that next day. It is going to happen. I guarantee it. You heard it here first. They are not going to let it pass because the banks they have to have that $200 billion. They have to have a lot more. The $200 billion right now is the cumulative. Again, like last night was a $63.5 billion last night. It matured, so it rolled over today, and they asked for another $55 billion. So the cumulative is the 14 days. I hope that makes sense. On the private road, I have a chart and graph and all that. Check that out. All right, so let's take a look at what happened actually yesterday, which was really interesting because there are 2 repo announcements every day. The first is the regular repo, which yesterday was 63.5. They talk about that in the article. I talk about that in yesterday's Horn of Disease. But there's another repo, the reverse repo, where the banks give the Fed cash, which just sounds bizarre. Banks give the Fed cash, and the Fed gives the banks some kind of security. Now, why would a bank need a security when they're low on cash? Because they're going to paint the tape at the end of the month. And they have to have these on the books because they short a lot of them. And they got to show that they have the backing in all kinds of reasons in the crazy banking world. But right here, yesterday at 1:15, they did a $7 billion reverse repo, which is huge. So he's like, holy crap. The banks needed to get $7 billion worth of securities that weren't on their books back on their books to paint the tape for the end of the quarter. That's how criminal banking works. They're in such trouble right now. They have to work on a day-to-day basis, a 24-hour basis. It's crazy. And there's today's repo, 54.85. Now, at 1:15, I think it is. Let me check. We got 1:15 today. They'll announce the reverse repos for today. I have no idea what's going on with the reverse repo market. Nobody does. Nobody knows why a bank will have to so desperately give up cash as collateral to get securities on their books. But because it's the beginning of the quarter, I would expect it to be a lot lower than $7 billion. I mean, I would expect it to be a hell of a lot lower, unless there's something I'm not seeing, which is more than possible, more than likely. But I'm going to take a look at it later today when they post it, but I would expect it to be lower than 7 billion because, I mean, it was obvious this huge jump of 7 billion was to paint the books. So on their books, they can say, yes, look, because it's the end of the year for some companies, it's the end of the quarter, end of the third quarter. It's in the end of the U.S. Fiscal year as well. So I would expect the reverse repo to be a lot lower because they don't have to paint the books again until December. But I don't know. We'll find out, right? Now let's talk about, we talked yesterday about, there's people figuring out who this is. Is it one entity? Is it a few entities? I think it's a few, but it's definitely all the derivative players. The big derivative problem is that everything's been derivatized. So these treasuries that they're putting up as collateral have multiple claims on them. Both Citibank and JPMorgan and Bank of America all are claiming the same collateral. And then they're getting loans on the same collateral from the Fed because they don't trust each other, and the Fed will absorb any collateral. They don't care if it's got multiple claims. So that's kind of what's going on. But why would someone like JPMorgan be in such deep trouble? Obviously, they're a criminal organization. What happened in the third quarter? We had the silver announcement that they really don't talk about the JPMorgan factor, that the bosses were in on it, in the rigging of the silver market. Their RICO charges, not against JPMorgan, but against these three traders, who their boss was Blythe Masters, who unexpectedly left her cushy crypto job in December, and Jamie Dimon. They knew about it. They are going down. It's been a bad quarter for Jamie. Now, here's the big one for Jamie. Personally, behind WeWork, leaders rise and fall, a Wall Street bank playing mini angle. JPMorgan Chase, an ardent backer of the startup, and Adam Neumann, as well as place as any investors to see the conflicts of interest. This was a fraud. The WeWork thing was a gigantic fraud on the not as big as the Bernie Madoff fraud, but damn big. And Jamie Dimon, literally Jamie Dimon, was running the show for JPMorgan. That is extremely rare and extremely dangerous and it's the worst thing you can do as an investment bank, is to have your CEO running the show or backing any deal. The objectivity goes right out the window. I've seen it a million times in banking. Every time the senior management gets in on a deal, they don't know how to do due diligence. They get emotionally involved. They get, everybody working on the deal who's supposed to analyze it from a perspective of, okay, I'm coming into this company. There's no push one way or the other. Especially the credit people will get pushed and pushed and pushed. The risk people pushed. You cannot say no to your CEO. It cannot happen in the banking world. You'll get kicked out the door. I gave up so many promotions because I wouldn't say yes to. I mean, they liked it about me because I wouldn't say yes. I wasn't a yes man to the boss. I was always, this is what I believe. You can do whatever you want with this deal. This is the analysis that we have. Take it or leave it. And I saw guys right next to me saying, oh, yeah, we'll do that, doing risky, crazy deals. And they get promoted and paid for it. And then the deal would go bad and then they get fired. I wasn't worried about getting fired. I was worried about doing a stupid deal. So when a CEO gets involved in a deal, in a big banking deal, everything goes out the window. Everybody from the guy who initiated the deal, to the legal people, to the credit people, to the risk people, all down the chain of people who are supposed to be analyzing these deals. If the CEO's in there and it's like pushing for this deal, it's over. There's no sense of, you can't do a credible analysis, and that's exactly what happened with WeWork. And we're talking hundreds of millions, probably billions of dollars will be lost because of Jamie Dimon. Jamie Dimon was pushing for the company, for the IPO, for the owner. And there's a lot of things that don't add up on this guy. I'm thinking it potentially deep state. But let's take a look. The ouster of WeWork's co-founder and its botched IPO are a remarkable are a remarkable collapse of what was considered up until weeks ago one of the most valuable startups in the world. This is not simply the failure of a young, capricious founder. Adam Neumann, who helped start the company in his early 30s, was a magnetic leader with a brash style that constantly invited controversy. Problem is that the audits in the room didn't act like adults in the room didn't act like adults. One of those adults was perhaps Mr. Newman's most critical enabler, JPMorgan Chase. While SoftBank, the Japanese conglomerate, is the biggest and most notable investor in WeWork parent company, JPMorgan has been one of the most ardent backers for years, working multiple sides. It lent Mr. Newman money personally with its inflated shares as collateral, provided equity and debt for the company, served as a corporate advisor for the IPO, and secured nearly $6 billion in financing as part of the now Scotch offering. If there was one institution best placed to fully understand the various conflicts of Mr. Newman, it was JP Morgan. The bank, in concert with UBS and Credit Suisse, provided Mr. Newman with $500 million credit line of personal credit, some of which was used to buy stakes in 4 buildings where he then had WeWork lease the space. He's double dealing. This is so much like Enron. The self-dealing was so offensive to investors that it was forced to unwind the arrangement ahead of the public offering. JPMorgan also provided Mr. Newman with an additional $97 million in loans, according to company filings, including for a mortgage used to buy a 60-acre property in Winchester County. JP Morgan was working for the company too, leading an extension of the $1.2 billion line of credit for WeWork all the way back to 2015. It later led another round of some $700 million in additional debt for the company. JP Morgan also participated in at least one funding round for WeWork in which its asset management clients invested in the company. All of which to say some of the money intended for the company seemed to go from WeWork's pocket to Mr. Newman's pocket. And JP Morgan either knew it or should have known it. Quote, "That is an all-time Gregarian knot of conflicts of interest, and there is no way to get around it," said Nell Millow, a longtime corporate governance expert who is now vice chair of Angle Value Investors. JP Morgan had to know about all of Mr. Newman's self-dealing and other behavior, she said. It's literally their job. And if they didn't, they were beyond negligent. Who was Bernie Madoff's only banker? Only banker for a $50 billion Ponzi scheme? Who's supposed to know everything about their customer? JP Morgan. Who ran JP Morgan at the time? Jamie Dimon. Jamie Dimon is criminal and he is going down. This is from Business Insider. WeWork CEO Adam Neumann reportedly referred to JP Morgan's Jamie Dimon as, quote, his personal banker. In a new report from Vanity Fair's Gabriel Sherman on Monday, sources claimed WeWork co-founder and CEO Adam Neumann said Jamie Dimon, CEO, was his personal banker. Neumann also claimed that Dimon, one of the biggest names in the financial world, would leave the institution to run Newman's personal investment fund, according to a report. That was his, I'm going to get out of banking, I'm going to go private. Jamie Dimon. It all fell apart for that criminal. Thank God. The report comes amid revelations that Dimon and Neumann met in New York over the weekend to attempt to get the embattled startup IPO back on track. Yeah, if the IPO fails, Jamie Dimon is out on his ear and probably ends up in jail. He should be in jail for various reasons. Wow, that's crazy, huh? So is Jamie Dimon and JP Morgan the one? It's been a rough quarter for old Jamie Dimon. His hair's a lot grayer than it used to be. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. I wonder if him and Blythe Masters are going to share a cell. That'd be cool. And let's talk a little bit about this whole Ukrainian thing. Trump is brilliant, 5D chess in action. The reality is the Ukrainian situation was all knee-deep in the Hillary Clinton email scandal, George Soros, and you name it, there's a million things wrong with it. Why do you think the Democrats are saying, oh, we got to hurry up and impeach him? They got to hurry up because all this information is coming out. Giuliani is in charge of getting it out now. They can go as fast as they want. Giuliani can talk faster than they can impeach Trump. But check this out. This is Martin Armstrong, and it's so obvious on the face of it but nobody really talks about it. His report, the SEC routinely prosecutes family favors in business dealings. And that's exactly what the Joe Biden, Hunter Biden thing was. It is completely illegal for Joe Biden to get Hunter Biden a job with the Ukraine oil company. That is completely illegal. A treaty was signed by the Ukraine and the U.S., which plainly states that Ukraine will assist in any investigation that may lead to the criminal activity. There certainly is nothing that is impeachable to ask Ukraine to investigate Biden, which has long been considered a very strange conflict of interest. In the real world, company directors would agree to do business with an American firm and request something personally in return, like a family trip to Disneyland. In the real world, anyone with the private sector would be prosecuted for what Biden did with his son. It's called the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. There's absolutely no way I could agree to even pay for a trip or anything with a director of a foreign company we deal with as a courtesy. It is presumed to be a bribe. The Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, FCPA, is a United States law passed in 1977 that prohibits U.S. firms and individuals from paying bribes to foreign officials in furtherance of a business deal. The FCPA places no minimum amount for the punishment of a bribery payment. In 2010, the SEC's Enforcement Division created a specialized unit to further enhance its enforcement of FCPA, which prohibits companies issuing stock in the U.S. from bribing foreign officials for governance, contracts, and other business. If I got a family member with a job with a country or company that I was doing business with, I would automatically be prosecuted by the SEC. So why is Joe Biden above the law? The mere fact that the Democrats are yelling impeachment over this issue confirms that the entire Russian nonsense failed. This is by no means an impeachable offense. In fact, anyone else in the private sector would be in prison for what Joe Biden and his family did. Hillary met with donors from the Ukraine to buy influence. She denied ever meeting them, but her emails showed she did. They were both deeply involved in the Ukraine. The Ukraine is key to the investigation of the deep state, and Giuliani's going after one of the key funders, if not the key funder of the deep state, George Soros. And George Soros is trying to fight back, but he can't get out of this. Soros is going down too, thank God. One of the key people that has divided America. He created the left and the right paradigm. He is the funder of all the left craziness and the media. They are George Soros. They bow down to George Soros' ideas, and little do they know they're being tooled and worked. So now Giuliani's going after Soros, and it's going to happen faster and faster because the Democrats want to impeach. Impeachment doesn't mean anything. We all know that. By now, we just learned impeachment doesn't mean anything if Trump's going to stay in office. But still, it's a perfect time to dump everything. Let the people know, wow, the Democrats, they have to continue on this impeachment thing, and Trump and the good guys are going to dump everything and show the world what was really going on. I love it. I love it. Keep it going, guys. All right. I have posted the Friday road trip from last week on the private road. I posted on the Patreon for you guys because it's really important to understand this repo market. And this thing breaks down kind of what's going on behind the scenes. So check it out if you're a Patreon subscriber. That's $10 a month. Go to Patreon, Road to Ruta. Or if you want to go get the deep stuff, go to Road to Ruta, join the private road, and get access to 3,000 different articles on all kinds of stuff, including 10 cryptos for the future, Ruta's timelines, all kinds of stuff. And I will have a Friday road trip coming out probably Thursday this week. Also, I will be doing a live chat today at, I believe, 11 a.m. So watch for that on the YouTube channel, Road to Ruta YouTube channel. I'll put a little announcement about that like an hour before with the link. And the live chat will be mainly a Q&A. The Q&As, you guys have so many questions that are great, and I enjoy it. So hopefully Amy will do some moderating and pluck questions out, and we'll go on from here. It is a crazy world, but again, like I started, we got to stay positive. Yes, Road to Ruta, they used to tell me, Bix, this Road to Ruta thing is way too positive. I'm telling the people of the world that they're going to lose everything. You're going to lose all your investment money unless you get it out of the banks, and everything's going to collapse, and they say I'm too positive. It killed me. It kills me. Now is not the time to be negative. Now is time to be positive and upbeat, because the future is, we have a potential to take out all this bad shit. It's not going to be easy, but when that is gone and truth and honesty is injected back into our markets, that's our 1,000 years of glorious future. That it I literally is right down the road from us. So keep up the positive attitude, keep fighting the good fight, keep learning, and stay on the road to Ruta. This is Bix. I'll talk to you guys later.